I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Monday, May the 6th, 2013. We open today with a reaction from the Arab world to Israel's alleged airstrikes in Syria over the weekend. As you may have seen on IBA News, Israeli jets reportedly hit a target in Syria of Iranian missiles that were bound for Lebanon's Hezbollah yesterday. A Syrian political official said today that Damascus will respond, but will choose the moment and may not do so immediately. Ynet reports that response from the Syrian opposition has been mixed, with some welcoming the strike on Assad's military facilities and others worried about the affiliation with Israel. Both Lebanon and Saudi Arabia have called on the United Nations Security Council to condemn Israel for the actions. The United States yesterday said that they are not in a position to comment on the reports of the Israeli airstrike. In speaking to the press yesterday, White House spokesperson Josh Earnest did, however, reference an interview that President Obama gave late last week, where the president noted that Israel is justifiably concerned about the threat posed by Hezbollah obtaining advanced weapons systems, and that the president has said many times that Israel is a sovereign government with the right to take the actions they feel are necessary to protect their people. Meanwhile, a source within Israeli military said 2 Mortar rockets, which landed earlier today in Israeli territory, were the result of a spillover from the fighting between the Syrian rebels and Assad's forces, and not a deliberate attack on Israel. The rockets landed in an open area in the southern Golan Heights in Israel. No damage or injury was reported. The IDF has filed a complaint with the UN's peacekeeping headquarters in the area. The 14th Annual Plenary Assembly of the World Jewish Congress began in Budapest, Hungary last night with a keynote speech from the country's Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. The main focus of the plenary is the dramatic rise in anti-Semitism and racism in Europe and in Hungary specifically. And while Prime Minister Orban conveyed in his address to the crowd that anti-Semitism was unacceptable, the World Jewish Congress expressed that Orban's words were not enough to combat the problem. The WJC released a statement yesterday responding to Orban's speech, saying that while they appreciated the Prime Minister's decision to address the international Jewish community at the Assembly last night, and for his statements, they criticized Orban for not confronting the true nature of the problem, the threat posed by the anti-Semites in general and by the extreme right Jobbik Party in particular. They expressed regret that Orban didn't address any recent anti-Semitic or racist incidents in Hungary, nor provide sufficient reassurance that a clear line has been drawn between Orban's government and the far-right fringe. The WJC statement said, as the Jewish people have learned throughout history, actions speak louder than words, no matter how well intended they are. The WJC further said they will continue to urge all democratic forces in Hungary and elsewhere to combat the rising extremism, anti-Semitism, and hatred in the country, and will continue to evaluate the situation in this regard. Ynet reports that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office stated that a final agreement regarding the reconciliation between Israel and Turkey is expected soon. A delegation from Turkey arrived in Israel today for a second round of talks between the parties in an effort to restore full diplomatic relations between the two countries. Israel and Turkey's relations have been estranged since the Gaza flotilla incident 3 years ago, when a fleet of ships led by anti-Israel activists tried to break the blockade of Gaza. IDF commandos boarded one of the vessels called the Mavi Marmara, where the peace activists on board were in fact armed and attacked the Israeli forces. When clashes ensued, 9 Turkish nationals were killed. Following today's talks, Israel's National Security Advisor Yaakov Amidror, who is among those from the Prime Minister's office leading the Israeli delegation, said that the meeting was conducted in a good and positive manner. The delegations, he said, reached an agreed draft, but further clarifications are required on certain subjects. Today's meeting follows one last month in Turkey between the 2 countries that reportedly also went well. And finally today, Israel's Attorney General Yehuda Weinstein said that he would not appeal the recent ruling by the Jerusalem District Court regarding the Women of the Wall. The ruling in that court stated that the group who fights for equal rights of women to pray at the Western Wall should not be arrested, as the court found that their activities at the holy site were not necessarily contrary to the wall's local custom and therefore were not illegal. Following Weinstein's decision not to appeal the court's ruling, the question is now how the ruling will impact the situation on the ground at the Western Wall. This issue is said to be raised tomorrow at Israel's Knesset. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Monday, May the 6th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader.